and welcome to The Nation. I'm Pasha Rahim. Our future depends on how well many different kinds of people can live and work together. This was the vision of our first Prime Minister, Tunku Abdul Rahman. We're only a couple of days away from celebrating Hari Kebangsaan. We've always been very proud of our multiracial, multi-religious country. But lately, it feels a lot like we're being threatened by the very thing. Today, we are being joined by SYED ALBAR from Project 57, and we'll be talking about diversity and unity in the country. Welcome to the show, SADIQ.
Thanks for having me.
Right. I'm going to read a little bit of an excerpt from your website. So it says here, in early 2015, both of us sat at a cafe talking about issues of racial polarization and religious tension grabbing our headlines way into the 21st century, and yet we seem to be moving further away from being united. It does seem strange, and a lot like what I said in the opening earlier. So how far has Project 57 come along since then?
Well, you know, when you talk about perpaduan and you talk about unity, we have to understand that it's a race with no finish line. Mm-hmm. And you always have to constantly adapt. You always have to keep on doing things to improve it. You know, constant work in progress.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things that people have to understand, or even we have to understand, that there's no finish line. So we have to keep on working at it. There are times you feel like things are better. But when we started it, the whole reason why we started it was because of the trajectory of the country. Mm-hmm. You know, we felt as though, people felt like a bit hopeless, lost hope, and that's why we focus on the youth in our project, so that they feel as though that they are very proud to be Malaysians. And I think this is something that we as Malaysians must be able to, one, separate anger and also love for country.
Right.
They're totally different things. And these are the things that, is very, very important for us to understand. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Going back to that line that I just read out, the vision of Tunku Abdul Rahman, how do you truly believe in it, and why does it resonate with you?
It resonates not just with me, because I've had people who actually, with regards to our business and the products that we sell, right, even foreigners, it resonates with everybody. Mm-hmm. Because there is no such thing as, like a clock, for example, or like a watch. There are so many components. And us as people, us as different races, us from people from different ethnicities or even background and religions, everyone plays a part. So you can't just simply think that one will be able to settle it all. Mm-hmm. But it's everything that actually comes together and is able to work together. That's the important thing, and that's why Tunku's statement, how well different kind of races or different kind of people can live and work together. That is so, so important. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay. Well, do you think that the situation that we are in right now, where we have race-based politics, for example, this was sort of the result of the British, divide and conquer? Do you think? Is there, do we have a chance of rectifying that, or do you think that, that's how it has been and that's where we are, that's where we're going to be?
I think race-based politics works in our country, and I think the only issue is that obviously, eventually, as we mature, it will be diluted. But for the time being, it's still a very important component. Right. But as race-based politics is there, we need to make sure that everyone feels very comfortable. No one feels, in a sense, marginalized or threatened. And that's the most important thing. You can live in a country which is, for example, predominantly white, but everybody in the country feels that they have equal opportunity. And that's something that's important, or merit-based. Yeah. This is something which is very, very important. And that, depends on the majority to be able to make even the minority feel that they are part of the whole ecosystem.
It's interesting that you mentioned equal opportunity, because obviously we live in a country where we are blessed with certain privileges, there's affirmative action and things like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, I use religion as a direction, right? And that is the best way to look at it, Everyone has a right. Everyone should be given the right opportunity and their equal right. And that is something which is, if you follow that as a compass, then I think we will be heading in the right direction. That's very important.
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like, especially when we talk about equal opportunities, it's always something that comes up in every conversation. When we speak to our friends who are from different races, they feel that it's very unfair. They feel that, us being from a certain race, we have a leg up on things. How do you address that?
Well, I think this is always a very sensitive topic. But I think as we move forward, as we as a nation, want to be able to progress forward, you want to be able to work with people, and this is about the future of the next generation. I think the most important thing is to make sure that the future generation is never marginalized. No matter what color, no matter what religion, no matter what race you are, you should never ever be in a situation where you're going to tell your child or your friend's child that you're marginalized. You're going to be given less opportunity than your other friend. Then something's not right. But again, we live in a country that we have to respect and accept each other's differences. And this is something that is, as I said, constant work in progress. It is not easy because we live in a very complex country with all sorts of combinations, right?
Right. Yeah. Do you think it's something that maybe perhaps in the future, 20, 30 years down the line, do you see that changing, or do you think that it will be status quo?
I think that depends on the politics of the day. It's not just entirely about the people, but of course civil society plays one of the most important roles, because civil society these days, I think, when you look at it, they do the check and balance as well sometimes, right, in terms of what is actually happening in the country. And nothing ever changes by keeping quiet. And I think it's very important for civil society, even people, of course, politics and politicians as well. But civil society must always be able to stand up when there is something. You need to make sure that your voice is louder, to make sure that that is where that change, that pressure is going to come from.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about Project 57. So you're using Tunku as the vision, basically. Yep. That's where you're heading. How do you apply, or what is the Tunku's ethos that you practice?
I mean, we all remember our Bapa Kemerdekaan. Yeah. And I think, Tunku is someone that really, until today, when you talk about Tunku or you mention Tunku Abdul Rahman's name, right, immediately it, you relate to like fatherly figure, someone that actually loved everyone, all races, it didn't matter, and made everyone feel as though that this is our nation. We are going to build this together, and that's what the essence of when Merdeka actually happened. Right. The whole point was there was this compromise amongst all races where it was about acceptance. That was the first step, right? Yeah. And for us to be able to accept and for us to be able to understand one another. And he embodied that. So that's why we use Tunku in a lot of our material. Right.
Is there a specific story or something about him that really kind of reminds you of him, and that's the one thing that you hold on to?
A story that someone told me, yes. So yeah, I can share that with you.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So, the person that told me the story is no longer with us. So he told us there was a story about Tunku. He was going to visit, he was going to visit a new, a construction site. Right. And there was a homeless guy there. So Tunku immediately, saw this homeless guy, went up to him, and then gave him some money so that he could buy food and all of that. And this guy was like totally in awe, shocked. And then at the same time, he was about to take off his jacket and give it to that person, but then that person ran away. So that's the kind of person that our first Prime Minister, our Bapa Kemerdekaan is. He had no thought about it. It was like, it was a natural thing. And I think sometimes, I think when you bring yourself closer to the ground, you understand people better and you can solve problems a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about diversity and inclusivity, in progressing our nation. But I think we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. We're back on The Nation, and today I'm talking to SYED SADIQ ALBAR. So continuing on with our conversation, the theme for this year's National Day or Hari Kebangsaan is Keluarga Malaysia, Teguh Bersama. And last year, as well as in 2020, it was Malaysia Prihatin or Malaysia Cares. Usually the theme would reflect, you know, the current situation that's going on in the country right now. Why do you think the message behind the theme this year is especially important?
Well, we're coming out of the pandemic, and I think, you know, but it's still there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very important for us to, in a sense, you know, accept that spirit of family, you know, Keluarga Malaysia. And I think it's important. It's lovely to have branding and all these kind of labels attached to it. And I think what's important is not so much just the branding, but it's the essence of what it actually carries. I mean, you know, you look at certain brands and all of that, at the end of the day, what creates that brand is actually the quality of what is made, right? Like Coca-Cola or whatever, you know, other kind of products, right? But the whole point is not just the brand, but to be able to really, really capture the essence and be able to understand that this family within Malaysia is that everyone is a family. So that's something that's important, especially coming out of the pandemic where everyone's been separated. We want everyone to know that togetherness is important.
Yeah, I like that you said, you know, that at the end of the day, we are actually indeed family. But there are a lot of people out there who seem to think that, you know, it's just lip service.
Well, I think that's, you know, sometimes you can't have everyone do everything. And I give you the example, like why we started the project. You know, you can't expect, you know, whether it's government or whether it's organizations or just charities to basically do the work, right? You yourself actually have to do the work. If there's something that you see that needs to be changed, then you got to get up and make that change, be part of that change. And that's why we decided to do this as well, because we didn't just want to have a conversation about unity and perpaduan. We wanted to actually shape the conversation. So the same thing, if there's something that you feel as though you're not family, then how do you make it family? You know, I think people can come up with good intentions, but it's up to you to actually kind of like, you know, look how to make it happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we talk about family, you know, we always use the words inclusivity, which I mentioned earlier. And there's been a lot of talk about how progress in the country is a little bit imbalanced. So, you know, there are areas where it is, there's severe lack of infrastructure, and then we have areas in the Klang Valley where it's getting congested day by day, and obviously this is affecting quality of life.
Yep.
So how do we, you know, how do we say we want everybody to be included in the progress of a nation, but at the same time there are groups of people being left behind?
Yeah, you know, this is always a challenge. Finding the right balance is always a challenge, and what people are saying is true. You can just go and see for yourself, right? When you go to different parts of East Malaysia, for example, or you go to different parts of, you know, East Malaysia, what is this, Semenanjung Malaysia on the East Coast, right? Same thing is true. And then you come to KL and it's like, wow, it's something else, right? But actually not everything in KL works either. So even though it's so modern, even though it's so wonderful and fantastic and all of that, there's still so many other issues here, right? And it's important for us to realize that it's like exercising, right? You focus on one arm or you focus on one leg, you're going to have a strange size on one side. And it's important for you to actually have that balance, you know. So again, this is something that, you know, redistribution or making sure that, I think, you know, to allow people to actually see that there is great joy not just being in Kuala Lumpur in terms of opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity elsewhere as well. And this is something that I think, you know, we have to rejig or try to reorganize.
So I've got this question though. I mean, we feel like we are actually more united than we are, or than what social media is trying to portray, or what people are trying to say that we are. So, you know, is this noise? Is it real, or is it, you know, just distracting us from what's actually tying us together as a one big Malaysian family?
You know, you hit it right. That we are actually united. We are.
Yeah. But
we also have to, you know, accept the fact that sometimes the loudest voices in the room are the ones that control the narrative. Or is allowed to control the narrative, which is something which we should be able to call out even more. So say, for example, somebody says something which is absolutely ridiculous and racist. Not enough people stand up to actually say something about it, and not quick enough. Mm-hmm. You kind of like let it fester and you leave it, and then the thing kind of morphs into some other kind of monster, which you shouldn't actually allow. Immediately when someone says something which is totally out of whack, you should actually say something about it. And actually the people who are in positions to be able to influence should be hopping on that bandwagon to make sure and say, no, this is absolutely not, this is nothing, that is not Malaysia, for example.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about Project 57 and how, what are you doing now?
Okay.
That's contributing to this whole idea of bringing Malaysians together as one big family.
We work very closely with the marginalized community, especially the Orang Asli.
Yeah.
So one of the projects that we're working on and we're raising funds for is to build a preschool for Orang Asli kids in Gua Musang, mainly for 5 to 6 year olds, so that this prepares them for standard 1
primary school, yeah.
For primary school, for them to be able to, you're proficient at reading, you're proficient at your counting and all this kind of stuff. So that's one of the things that we're doing. For this year as well, there's a project for this Merdeka that we're working with a renowned Malaysian artist named Yusof Majid. So we've, I say we've, but Yusof did all the painting for a range of Merdeka artwork, all inspired by Malaysian punya feeling, and also at the same time, what is the essence of Malaysia. So his whimsical style of art and that kind of like, that happiness within his art actually brings a lot of, I think, fond memories for people when they actually look at it.
Right.
So that's some of the stuff.
What have you seen? I mean, throughout your work with Project 57, what are the some of the things that you've seen that really sort of make you feel like this is what we're doing, that really embodies the what do you call it, like the essence of Project 57?
How long's the show? So
just maybe the ones that the most memorable ones.
I think one of the most memorable things is that working with young people, especially university students, college students. And the reason why I say that is because I think sometimes you look at the youth, and then you think, oh no, don't worry, this one should be done by an older person or whatever. Right. But the youth are always on fire. They're ready, they care, they understand it sometimes better. The questions are harder. So the older people sometimes don't like to deal with the questions, but they ask the right questions, and what you need to do is give them the right answers. So when we work with colleges and universities, we've been inspired by the students. So the students are actually the ones that make us go and do what it is that we do, because we feel that we need to be able to magnify the number and the range of those kind of students, those children. Yeah.
I noticed you have this really nice ribbon on your lapel there. Can you tell us a little bit more about that ribbon?
Okay.
I know that it's made by Project 57 and you sell it, but where does the money go to?
Okay, so this little thing is called a Unity ribbon. Unity ribbon is made or assembled by Orang Asli youths. They earn for every ribbon that they make. We've sold, coming up to, at the end of this year, 400,000 ribbons. And for and all the profits from the sale of the ribbon go towards empowerment programs and education programs for underprivileged and Orang Asli youth. Right. Yeah, so that's practically.
So the Orang Asli community that you work with, are they mainly in Semenanjung, or do you have work in Sabah and Sarawak as well?
So we have work with Sabah and Sarawak. We also work in the Semenanjung side. We work with youth development centers in KL. And I think one of the things why we created, just to understand why we created the Unity ribbon, is because of what it symbolizes. We're all very different.
Correct.
Okay, but yet we are pretty much the same. We have a lot of similarities. And I think one of the things that we as Malaysians share is our aspirations. And the Unity ribbon symbolizes that. Our aspirations for our country is to have it that this is a beautiful country, this is a safe country, this is a country which is corruption-free, and I can be a tudung-wearing lady, a businessman from somewhere, or a foreigner that's become Malaysian or lives in Malaysia, but has the essence of what it is about being Malaysian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, I love that about and everything about what you're doing, especially, you know, the whole message of unity. And I feel like a lot more of us need to truly embrace that and not just, you know, say it for the sake of saying it. But I mean, it's wonderful work that you've been doing with Project 57. Maybe one last question, because you talk about working with the youth a lot, right?
Yep.
I just want to pick your brain, maybe your opinion. Since Undi 18, what are your thoughts on youths being involved in politics on campus?
I think it's great. I think it should happen. I don't think you should wait until it's too late, especially when the older generation hasn't been a fantastic example. So, and what we're doing is we're actually looking at the life of the youth. It should be also they should be part of the decision-making process.
Right.
So it's very important to have them as part of this whole ecosystem and not playing on the sidelines. So I feel that, you know, it's a wonderful thing. Undi 18, this is the future. England had Undi 18 in 1969, and we have only just recently introduced it, but at least it's a step in the right direction.
Well, the turnout was still a little bit low. Do you think they're you know, afraid maybe to come out, or they're still sort of unsure of where, who, or what to do?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I guess, you know, everything that's new takes time.
Right.
And sometimes one particular election or one particular GE is not enough to be able to make a decision on how it's actually going. I think it is a step in the right direction. It's just a matter of time before you will actually see the youth being more engaged and play a bigger role.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Let's just talk about, I'm sure the Unity Ribbon is not the only thing that Project 57 does, right? You've got a lot of other merchandise. Maybe you want to tell us where we can get them.
Okay, one of the things I have to tell you about this year is that we're part of Merdekaverse.
Right.
So Merdekaverse this year, together with a company that's being set up by a company called Xanadu, right? So basically, it is an online experience for you to actually be in Merdeka. So you can create an avatar, and you can actually go into this Merdeka whole theme setup, and Tunku Abdul Rahman will be there, you know, melaungkan, you know, the Proclamation of Independence and all of that. So, you know, everyone can actually go and be part of this online Merdeka in Merdekaverse. Yeah.
Do you think that, you know, we don't celebrate, you know, Merdeka Day like it was celebrated back then in those days?
Yeah, I guess, you know, sometimes people, I think everything has kind of like, you know, there's always peaks and troughs, right? In terms of, you know, there are some years where it's really great, people get excited, there are some years where it's not, and I think that's part of life, yeah? But I think it's important for us to never stop, you know, making sure that Merdeka, Bulan Kemerdekaan and Malaysia Day is, you know, a wonderful and special day for all of us Malaysians.
Yeah. Do you think we've become jaded in a way, or are you, you know, optimistically hopeful?
I am. I think, you know, for people to be able to appreciate the good things, you need to go through the bad.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, I think even in relationships, unfortunately, sometimes, you know, you know, you kind of go through that phase, but then you realize that, you know, when it's the good times, then you realize that how much you appreciate it. And same thing with our country as well. Same thing with Merdeka.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of hope for us.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like a relationship we have with the country.
That's right.
Love, hate, love, love.
Love, hate, love, yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been great talking to you. I can't, you know, we can talk about this all day long, right? And I think not just during Merdeka Month, I think we should be talking about unity and diversity and inclusivity. And like you said, I think it's something that we need to practice in our everyday lives. Especially, you know, for us to make a difference, I think it has to start from within us. So thank you once again for being on the show with us today. On the outside, we all may look very different, but inside, we bleed the same, we bleed red. We are rich, we are diverse, and we can live together, we can love each other, and truly, that is the beauty of being Malaysian. I'm Pasha Rahim, and this has been The Nation on Bernama TV.